Good day, everybody. Welcome to the morning meeting. For the second day in a row, I'm a victim of air travel inanity. So I'm on the move. Gentlemen, break format a little bit while I shuffle around. Let's just talk about Chuck Schumer right off the top. I don't even tell anybody about the show. Dan, if you were Chuck Schumer's political advisor, how would you be feeling 2 days into this calamity?
I mean, I would feel good in that you're not going to get dislodged in the next couple months, but I would feel bad because in the long run, you're an inside man in an outside game now. And if you just think about Chuck Schumer compared to Gavin Newsom or Mandani in terms of strategy, tactics, being able to get attention, get in the other side's face, kind of own them, he just doesn't do it. He's a cable news kind of beltway media guy. And I think the other problem he has is he's got the support of his colleagues enough, but the constellation of outside groups have it in for him. And this was McConnell's problem. You can only survive so long before you get squeezed out. So in the long run, it's a question of when, not if.
Let me just say, I think this
Yeah.
what
Sean, I
what
think the McConnell comparison is
okay.
well, just the McConnell comparison seems to me now to be increasingly apt.
Yes, I was going to say the difference, or sort of the thing that I find fascinating about the way you framed it is one of the things that staff need to know their boss, right? And so the question is, if he's a cable news junkie, is he fighting the narrative, or is he like, I get it, this is the end, right? And I'm just going to enjoy the ride. We all get the joke. Or is he looking at you as a staffer and saying, we've got to fix this. We got to fix this. Everybody knows I didn't vote for it. And you're trying to swim against the tide. So I think the key thing for Schumer and his team right now is, do they get what this is really about? Or are they going to try to pretend that somehow he can win back the narrative and become the hero to the Democratic Party, which is never going to happen?
Well, and he doesn't look like a leader. He looks like he's being led. And that's another huge
So,
problem
yeah.
for him right now is he's lost control of everything. So it looks like he's reactionary. And I think the only way he survives is if they somehow win back the Senate or they pick up like 3 seats and he can say we're moving. But otherwise, I don't know any new member who's going to come in with a pledge to support him. I
Well,
mean, you just can't.
even the current ones, at best, the responses are tepid, where they're like,
Well,
we
some
got
of
to
them
continue.
are. The progressives are. The moderates don't comment because they like what he did.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the point though is that if no one has your back publicly,
Yep.
that's a problem, even if they're behind the scenes giving you a wink and nod.
Yeah. But nobody's running against him now, right? And
Correct.
and even if they don't take the majority, I don't think anybody's running against him. I guess just McConnell, I don't think cares that his career is ending without adulation from the base. I don't think he cares. Maybe I'm wrong. I just don't. But I think Schumer does. I think Schumer
Yes.
would care. So, Dan, is there anything he can do to not? I mean, if it, on the current trajectory, whether he is primaried by AOC or decides not to run, whatever, he's not going to end with the accolades he wants. He's going to end on a down beat as opposed to upbeat. Is there a way to turn that around? Like Jeffrey supported him. Like who
Yeah.
could support him?
I
Would
well,
would
I think I
allow
was actually
the beat.
very pleased to see Jeffries did that. I think it's the right thing to do. But I think the problem is look at how politics is how you engage now. Think about how you fight. Again, I go back to Newsom, Mandani, the candidates that get it, that are nimble, and then we all laugh at Schumer, right? He does these videos where he's just old, it's stilted, he's clearly reading something, there's no organic passion. So if you're trying to save yourself, it's like he was successful because he got the old game better than anyone else. He got cable TV. He understood kind of the politicos of the world, how to feed the beast. He now looks like a dinosaur. So I don't know how he becomes a modern, nimble leader. I
Yeah.
just don't,
Correct.
because Mark, it used to be that who cared about the noise? You could just own your caucus and you could be powerful in the Beltway, and that was a way to survive. Now it's all a national outside world, and he's losing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Let's
mean,
talk about the eight.
he
Go
mastered,
ahead.
by the way, like weekend media better than anybody,
Yeah,
but it moved.
yeah,
The eight are getting far less pressure than Schumer, far less vitriol,
yeah.
although they're not getting none. let's look at the only one who found out was out on morning TV. This is John Fetterman, 110 on Fox and Friends.
I mean, I think my party crossed a line of now putting 42 million Americans with their SNAP benefits, and making flying less safe and that kinds of chaos, and not paying our military. I mean, that was a red line for me that I can't cross as a Democrat. And I think that's been described, country over the party. And now that I think that's been the truth throughout it, and it's only wrong to shut our government down. And I'm relieved. But the people now that are going to get paid and fed, and millions of Americans, they're going to be flying now. That's going to be made more safe and restored.
So, unlike Schumer, I feel like the eight are doing pretty well defending their position. They
Yeah.
seem pretty calm. Sean, if you were comms for one of those eight, would you feel they need to do something more different, or not?
Well, look, each one of them is either retiring or not in cycle. So they have the beauty. I mean, that was kind of why it was almost like that's why they were selected, and chose to do this in the first place. They knew that it would be minimal blowback. I think each of them, with the exception of Durbin, maybe has a reputation of being a little less of the partisan progressive, the two New Hampshire senators, et cetera. So I think that they knew what they were doing, to the extent that they care. I'd say lean into this. But the problem is they also can't pick at the scab because they know that they're exposing not just their fellow Democratic senators, but their House members, and in the case of Jean Shaheen, her daughter. And so I think you cast the vote and then you don't rub it in anyone's face. You took one for the team, you jumped on the grenade. Thank you for doing it. Move on.
And Thursday, I think it is later this week, there's this dinner in New Hampshire that Cory Booker's speaking at to all the activists in the party. How does that get navigated for the two New Hampshire senators?
Oh, I think he's going to just look forward. I mean, I don't think he's going to go there and go at them. That just would not be a very smart thing. I think all politics is local. I mean, you listen to Tim Kaine talking about the number of federal employees that he secured from the White House. I forget, what is it? A moratorium on mischief, that there'll be no more federal layoffs from now till January 30th. That's a win for him. It's all over the Washington Post. It's all over the local news. It's down in Richmond, down in Norfolk. So I think the Nevada crew, the New Hampshire crew, if you listen to what they're saying, it's all about their state, the jobs they saved, the benefits that they've released, the airport lines that they've reopened. So I don't think they will pay a price. I think, Booker, it would be, I think, suicide to go into New Hampshire and go to war with the two senators. Yeah. I just think that's not what you want to do. There's a time and a place for that, and that's not it.
Correct. Yeah, I agree. And this is a much more collegial body than the House. I mean, they're not going to. I mean, and I also think that New Hampshire in particular is a little different. I mean, they have a familiarity with their elected officials that you go in there and start yelling at them. I think people would be like, "Hey, that's not how we do it here."
Yeah, and that would be the headline. No matter what else you say, the headline would be that you went at the two U.S. senators and criticized them, and I don't think that's what you want the headline to be.
Correct. Yeah.
Not in the union leader. One brief more interlude while I elevator here. Sean, talk about Veterans Day, how it plays in our politics and in our country now.
Well, it's an interesting question you're asking, because I would have assumed up until a few years ago that it was sort of one of those sacred days where people sort of put everything aside. I think to some extent that still exists. But I think, as I mentioned during that enlistment ceremony at Northwest Stadium, that it's becoming more tribal. We're talking about policies in the military and what's going on now versus then. So I think what has been sacred in the past is becoming less so, and we'll see how today plays out. The president's going to obviously be at Arlington. Do people make comments about him or some of the other stuff? But I don't know. It's unfortunate, because this is a day when it's supposed to be about others, not politics, and not one party or another. So I think time will tell at the end of the day whether or not we have any sense of that left or not.
Dan.
Yeah, I mean, I think the last 10 years, the military has become it's become political. I mean, look at what's happening now, right? You're firing and cleaning out people because they supported DEI policies or things of that nature. And so I think the military, like the courts, like every other institution in this country, has not been able to escape politics. I wish that weren't so, but it just, I think, is the reality of the world, whether it was changing the names for all the bases and getting rid of Confederate, names and trying to, scrub that out, or now kind of going in the other direction. But, my father served. He's buried at Arlington National Cemetery. And I think we should just, remember those who have served and be very grateful for it.
So we thank and honor all our veterans today. Ask you a political question. Does it help in winning the Democratic nomination to be a veteran? We have some people who are veterans who are thinking about running. Does that help in the politics of 2028 in the Democratic Party, Dan?
Yeah, it does, because at the end of the day, strength still matters. It just is an immediate, image of strength and security. And so I think serving will be an asset, but I think not serving is no longer a liability.
Yeah.
Sean?
I think it also depends on how you play it and what the attacks are, right? So one, if you're a Democrat, I assume it's a bonus because each party has strengths, inherent strengths that national security, military are sort of the Republican ones, some social ones are Dems. And so if you can take a card off the table, you help because then it softens the blow. But as we saw, in the case of like Virginia, Winsome Sears, former Marine, I don't think it did a huge help there. I think JD has played it well as a former Marine. He's played it up. So how you play it matters as well. But if you go back to John Kerry, it's still to me like unbelievable that his team allowed the guy to get quote unquote swift voted. You can disagree with his service, but the fact of the matter is, you shouldn't be on the flip side. I mean, even in the New Jersey race, you had Jack Ciattarelli attacking Mikey Sherrill for her cheating scandal at the Academy. Bottom line is, though, she served. And I found it fascinating the way that they let that roll off, that attack just roll off, as opposed to answering it straight on. So, I mean, I guess the answer is I think it can help, but it's also how you use it, what you say about it or not. And at the end of the day, as we saw in New Jersey in particular, Ciattarelli was talking about who had lived in New Jersey longer, who was an original New Jerseyan versus, and whether or not she, was could marched in her graduation ceremony or not from the academy. I just think there are many times when there are bigger issues at play, and if you're not addressing them, then you're missing the boat. So, as I said earlier, how you play it matters.
Very grateful to you all for your indulgence while I maneuvered my way through the streets of Manhattan. Good morning. This is the morning meeting based on the Network News Division's morning meetings. Dan, Sean, and I are going to take you through the day, and then we'd welcome your questions. If you're here on the two-way platform, please raise your hand. Love to have your participation. If you're watching, say, on YouTube or X, no smack in the chat. We believe in peace, love, and understanding here, presumption of grace to all. And if you're a liberal Democrat and you hate Chuck Schumer, think about a Knish, maybe distract yourself. This program's got a lot of great sponsors. Is Jim Clyburn on MSNBC right now? Am I losing my mind? Is that live? I don't know if it is. Yeah, let's take Jim Clyburn. Give me a moment to set up. Let's see what he's got to say.
People, you got to try to bring people together. We have 7 seats in South Carolina. I'm the only Democrat among the 7. Yet, we've got a Republican congressman asking the president to put pressure on South Carolina's governor to eliminate my seat. Well, what he's talking about is reducing the number of African Americans in the district. I don't have a majority black district. It's being reported all over the country. 47% of my congressional district, African American. Now, last time I checked, that means 53% are not. And so I don't win with only African Americans. I win by working on finding a common ground.
We'll watch.
Which
We'll
is
monitor.
fine.
Although we'll talk about redistricting because a lot's going on there. Anyway, a quick word from a sponsor, and then onto the day book and and then our conversation about a few more things. Sponsored this morning, one of our new ones, Chef IQ. If you're planning to cook for Thanksgiving, no calamity is desired. Rather, just time with the family would be better. And let the cooking not take care of itself, but why not get help from the good folks at Chef IQ? Go to chefiq.com. Promo code is 2WMM, two-way morning meeting, 2WMM. And you can reduce your stress. Use Chef IQ Sense. Turkey's got to hit 165 degrees Fahrenheit, and you can't do that with your eyes, ladies and gentlemen.
No.
I don't care. I don't care how magical you are. You want the perfect temperature every time. Use the device, Chef IQ, to whether you're smoking it, whatever you're doing, grilling, pan-searing, roasting. Just use the app, sit back and relax. Chef IQ Sense will tell you when to flip stuff, when to take it off the heat, even how long to let it rest. It's basically like having your own personal chef. Again, it works with everything, steaks, chicken, fish, whatever you're cooking. But most on your mind right now might be the turkey. So order right now. It's the ultimate gift as well. Perfect for seasoned cooks, rookies, and everyone in between. 30% off. Go to chefiq.com, use the promo code 2WMM, and get 30% off. Again, chefiq.com, promo code TWMM. Tell them Dan, turkey loving Dan, sent you.
Oh, I love
Dan-
it. Wait,
Dan
are you
like-
guys if you could only have one, fried, smoked, or well, you got baked? What kind of turkey do you do?
Kung Pao.
Baked.
I like Kung
Yeah,
Pao.
Baked. I do like the smoked.
Smoked
It
is-
just didn't. I did. No, I couldn't. I tried it. I'd rather go fried, deep
Yeah.
fried,
Ooh,
100%.
I don't like it. Yeah, I like the smoked is amazing.
Oh, it's
Smoked is
too.
good.
It's.
All right, the president today, not doing much of anything except the important remembrance of this important day. So he's going to Arlington at 10:35 p.m. Eastern, a.m. Eastern, delivering remarks at 11 Eastern. Let's play the game, guys. Does MSNBC, CNN carry that live in full? His remarks
Yes,
at
slow
Arlington.
news day. Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think
And
so.
then back to
Yeah.
the White House, and as far as we know, nothing else. Public don't know where the vice president is. Perhaps he'll accompany the president. The Senate has adjourned. The House is not back yet, but the Rules Committee is supposed to meet this afternoon to start trying to cobble this together. Most people expect the vote will be tomorrow. And in Brazil, the COP30 climate conference is underway. All right. So as you said, not a particularly speedy news day. Let's go back to talking about the shutdown. And Sean, just we assume it's going to pass the House. I assume all of us do. What happens then? Like once the House passes it, where does the conversation go? Does it go to healthcare discussions? Does it go to whatever Donald Trump puts on True Social? Like where's the Washington politics talk after House passage?
Yeah, well, first of all, I will say I'm going to keep my eye on C-SPAN on that vote because remember, a lot of members are going to have interesting time getting back. You got a new member from Arizona being sworn in, meaning it's continues to be a very narrow majority for the House. So it's not just the how many people he's got commitments from, and Johnson's done a great job of getting the Freedom Caucus guys in particular on board, but I'd be interested to see. You wouldn't believe the stuff that happens when you're hoping that everybody makes it back on time, not just travel wise, but like health wise, family wise, et cetera. So that's number one. Number two is I think that this is going to be interesting because there's reports that the Senate's really looking at some healthcare policy, and that's going to immediately send the House guys into freak out mode. What do we need to be doing? What is our answer? I do think that you're going to hear a little pop off about Epstein for a couple days because the discharge petition will get signed. So we'll spend 24, 48 hours pretending like that's going to matter. And I say that respectfully to people because it's not that the issue doesn't, but I'm talking about the legislative process. We've talked about this before. The Senate's not going to take it up. The president's never going to sign it. So the bottom line is this is a media exercise more than anything else in terms of the discharge petition. I think Anna Paulina Luna got some assurances that the Stock Act is going to go through regular order in the committee. So there's a possibility. Again, I think you're going to get a little bit of a potpourri of issues as everybody tries to game like how much attention can something get, but I do think you're going to get a little bit of healthcare discussion about what's next and what are we going to do on the ACA subsidies specifically.
Dan, where do you think?
Yeah, I think you're going to hear people talk about, Trump last night said, I'd like Trump care. And I think you're going to hear Democrats now lean into that, saying, okay, where's Trump care? Like show us Trump care, right? Kennedy's kind of floated this idea now of sending money directly to individuals. But of course, there's absolutely no details about how that would really work in theory and cost savings. And, presumably then you turn around and they're going to route that money back to the insurance company. So you're spending money on moving it around. But I think now you're going to see the party try to move forward to make this about healthcare. Again, we're fairly united. Our position is extend the ACA subsidies. If you want to criticize them, fine. Show us Trump care.
Well, also to your point about these subsidies, I know the president, at least according to the Treasury Secretary's lack of awareness about the issue, no disrespect to Secretary Bessent, but it's clear that this was not a full-on baked policy idea. And I think more people are going to get concerned. You've got tariffs that you saw the Truth Social last night. I've said this for all along. I just believe where the court's going to go on this, there's a good chance that I think you're going to lose that tariff money. So that's number one. Number two, even if you got to keep a chunk of it, I think we've got $38 trillion in debt. And I get the president's desire to want to send everyone a check, but I just showed you guys a check 2 weeks ago from Virginia. It doesn't, I think everyone has this false sense that you get a check from some politician and you're going to flip your vote for him.
Yeah, I know. If I understood you the other day, you're skeptical of this, but the Wall Street Journal's very good Supreme Court reporter also floated this notion with citing some precedent. So this is less about trade law than Supreme Court precedent, that the court could say, president violated his authority and we're laying down a marker going forward, but you can keep the money because we're not going to tell the executive branch, we're not going to micromanage that.
Look, obviously, I'm not, I mean, I took one legal class ever and watch a lot of Law and Order. But from my understanding from precedent, that the basis of the case is, hey, you didn't have a right to take this. So if the plaintiff is seeking relief and saying you didn't have the right, and the court says you're right, you are absolutely right, but we're not giving it back, it kind of defeats the point of the case.
The journal, I agree with you in sort of like logic, but the journal story cited at least one or two cases where they said
look,
they could do it.
And I'm sure they can. I
also think the other interesting thing to watch here is this whole thing about affordability, because Trump seems to be ping-ponging around, right? Immediately after last week, you heard James Blair and others say, we're going to focus on this. It's an important issue. And then you get Trump for the second time this week, last night, and Laura Ingraham saying it's fake news.
Yeah,
but
there is no affordability.
This goes back to what I was saying before. I think where the disconnect, in my opinion, is, I gave the example the other day. If prices were $3 when he left office, they went to $5 during Biden, and they're now $4. In Trump's mind, correctly, he's like, look, things are going down. The problem is for most Americans, they go, yeah, but they're still $1 more than they were. They don't really care whose watch it all happened on as much as I'm still paying more money for X, right? So yes, he's right that a lot of things are getting cheaper, but for most Americans, they just care about the bottom line for their wallet, which is, am I paying more or less, regardless of which politician was there at, during a certain period of time.
Yeah. And I will tell you, the one thing I'll say about this is attention. I was in DC yesterday, talked to some folks. Attention is going to turn to the State of the Union and all the things that go into that on the inside. This administration historically has not leaked the way others have, not leaked, but spoon-fed out little teases about it. I don't know why, but they haven't. So, but you'll see a lot of people in the administration being said, bring us your affordability ideas. But I think we'll see those in the State of the Union, which could be January, could be February. But don't forget Halperin's rule of 7 and 5. Nothing happens in November and December. 2 of 5 months during the year where nothing happens. So they'll have to deal with the December vote, the January deadline. But I think you're going to see the president's wacky musings about affordability maybe tamp down a little bit as they look for actual ideas. Dan.
And don't forget, primary season starts in February. And at least on our side of the that is going to start to consume the caucus, because if you get some big people knocked off early, that is going to start sending a message of, are you next? Who else could go? What is the caucus going to look like? Is leadership safe? So we're not that far from votes being cast.
So let me just throw this out there to flip Mark's question. If the president said, what date do I want to give my State of the Union, knowing that the current deal funds the government through January 30th, do I want to give that speech before the funding fight starts again or after?
I would do before.
I would do before.
To dominate the year and to try to frame that.
Well, not just that, but you can't, let's say you picked February 7th and you go into another shutdown, you're going to give your State of the Union while the government shut down? I mean, that's just not a good look.
Yeah. And even if you set it for February 20th, you still run the risk. All right, we'll see what they do. Quick word from the sponsor. We got a couple more topics to get to, and then your question. So if you're here on the platform, want to ask one, please raise your hand. In DC yesterday, and of course, lots of people came up to me, not to talk about the morning meeting or two-way tonight or next up, but Cozy Earth wanted to tell me that they bought the pants and they love them. You too can own the Cozy Earth pants, towels, blankets, bubble cuddle blanket for 40% off, which is more of a discount than I've paid. Go to cozyearth.com, use the promo code MARK for 40% off the whole site. It's early Black Friday on Tuesday. It's Black Friday on Tuesday. Right now, you can stock up on anything you need and also buy your holiday gifts at Cozy Earth. Go to cozyearth.com, promo code MARK for 40% off. It's on everything. The towels, which I now use regularly. I almost brought the towels with me on my trip to DC. Would that have been weird? Staying in a hotel and just taking out
They might-
George
They
W.
might-
Bush famously brought his own
his own
pillow.
pillow.
Bring
Yeah,
your own
yeah.
towels.
Yeah, well, I didn't, but I'm looking forward to getting home tonight, and maybe I'll take a
I don't
second.
want, listen, the
bathe a
last thing I
second
want
time.
is to bring my anything, pillow or towel into a hotel room. I'm
Yeah.
like, leave it there.
Wrap the ones you love in luxury with Cozy Earth. Go to cozyearth.com. Use the promo code MARK for 40% off. All right, redistricting. Very interesting. Yesterday, Utah gave Democrats a seat. So Dave Wasserman, who knows more about the House than anybody, and I'll say again, everybody I talked to in D.C. yesterday, everybody's consumed, both sides, just consumed with House majority. Is it going to be, the Republicans controlling everything for the last 2 years of the Trump term, or is the last 2 years going to be all about subpoenas and investigations and impeachment? Democrats, according to Dave Wasserman, he does not just whole seats, but half seats, depending on whether a district is likely to flip or not. Because as we know, there's that expression where you redistrict stupidly. You know what I'm talking about?
Dummy mandering?
Dummy mandering.
Dummy
Thank you.
mandering,
Dummy
yes.
mandering. So there may be some dummy mandering, particularly in Texas, probably not in California. But here's how Dave tallies it up. California, Dems plus 4.5. Then Republicans +1 in Missouri, +0.5 in North Carolina, +0.5 in Ohio, +4 in Texas, although there may be some dummy mandering there, and then +1 in Utah. And that leaves Republicans ahead by just half a seat, with Florida, Indiana, and Virginia the biggest remaining variables. Dan, this might all end up being a wash, which doesn't mean Republicans won't keep the majority, but certainly this all this sound and fury might signify basically nothing when it comes to gaining an advantage.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised because I thought even after California they would still net seats, but after last Tuesday, now everyone is questioning does the math work in all of these seats? Might it not be quite what it was? It's immensely fascinating. I don't think there's probably more than 15 or 20 seats at play. Like this is going to be the smallest playing field.
Everybody says that. There's just no sign of either side expanding the field.
Yeah, so I mean,
except redistricting.
Yeah, so I mean, whoever wins is probably looking at a super small majority. And I mean, candidly, if I were JD Vance, I'd want the Democrats to win a chamber. I think it's hard to keep straight party to control everything for a long period of time. At some point, voters say we want a little bit of a change here.
I don't think he's rooting for that, but I take your point. Sean, what's happened with like James Blair and the big vaunted political operation? Like, were they obviously California? We talked about the fact they didn't try to raise money there, so a lot of effort on some level, but they can't be happy that their scheme to sneak attack has been met by the Democrats and the courts to kind of neuter the whole thing, it appears.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think first of all, you're going to see a court challenge on Utah because there was serious question about whether or not that court had the authority to do that. So I think you're going to see the Utah Supreme Court take that up. That was definitely a setback. But I actually think the bigger setback could have been potentially +2 on the Dem side. So walking away +1 is probably somewhat of a win. And then you've got a lot of TBDs. Florida, I think, is easily a +3. And there's a couple more. So I think, look, to the broader point, absolutely. We've gone through a lot for what, maybe 4 or 5 seats, but that may be the ball game. There's about 17 to 19 seats in play. So if you can pick up 4 or 5 at the end of the day, that's not a bad deal. Yeah. And I think to your point about these halvesies, you're right. I mean, in Texas, there's definitely 4. We're playing for the 5th, but that's whatever. But I also think there's people on our side that think that, like, David Valadao could make a really good play for one of those seats in California. And so you could mute some potentially. I mean, look, so the bottom line is I think we probably end up +5 or 6. But you do a lot for fiber. It's sort of like, is the juice worth the squeeze?
Yeah, and don't forget, we could still have a Supreme Court decision on the Voting Rights
Voting
Act
rights.
that would open up I think it's
And that would change everything.
a dozen.
And
Again,
that goes back to that Clyburn seat, by the way, because
yeah,
the one thing that's interesting about South Carolina is he actually undermines his own argument. You can't, if it's not a majority minority district, which he's
yep,
clearly saying on that clip that it wasn't, and
yep,
they've elected a black senator on the Republican side, it's very hard to make the case
yep,
that you need,
I mean,
the
I
South
think it
Carolina.
will get struck down.
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
it's definitely going to get struck
Just
down.
it's a question of do they do it in time to affect this cycle, right? They may not. Again, I recommend that Wall Street Journal story. It focuses on John Roberts, and it's pegged to the tariff decision, but it talks about the fact that even though the court has through orders, often unsigned orders, given the president a lot of leeway on executive power, they've not actually done a decision
Yeah.
on that. And if they do strike down the tariffs in whole or in part, the authority the president's tried to use, some say it'll be a sign that Roberts is trying to lead the court towards restraining this president's extraordinary efforts to use executive power, and it could lead to a cascade of decisions on a bunch of stuff that would be a problem. And we don't know when that's coming. They could do it in a hyper expedited way. As you know, the Halperin urging is that the courts act like a co-equal. If they want to be a co-equal branch, they should operate on time, that they wouldn't be writing these decisions with quill pens. But we don't know. It could happen in 2 weeks. It could happen in 3 months. We don't know. But again, worth reading that journal story if you haven't. All right, one more topic, a couple things on the media, and then to your question. So again, if you want to get in the conversation, maybe you've never raised your hand before, but you feel like today'd be a good day to do it. Go ahead and do it. All right, Washington Post. I'm monitoring the Post closely for whether they're knowing what time it is, as the kids say, on liberal media bias, because the people who are managing the paper really don't want the paper to be liberal, but they still have a bunch of legacy reporters there who don't know what time it is and think, it's okay to be hostile to Donald Trump. So this piece caught my eye. This is number 107. The Post talked to a group of women around the country about how they feel about the Trump administration and about Donald Trump. And then they went back and talked to a bunch of them again. Here's the headline: How women feel about Trump's presidency, heartbreak, fatigue, gratitude. Sean, just your thoughts as a student of media bias and of the Post specifically. Is that all right, or do you find that to be annoying in some way?
It's annoying. It's literally them looking for issues to bring up. So and there were several yesterday that blew my mind. They're just so out to lunch.
Yeah.
I mean, they love to talk about democracy dying in darkness. They're doing everything to kill that paper in right in clear as day.
I do feel if you want to look for, green shoots and signs of progress, I think 5 years ago they wouldn't have put gratitude in there. At least they.
Oh, well,
At
it
least,
was sort of like, hey, we'll find five people.
yeah.
Four of them will hate Trump, and we'll find one that says
Yeah.
he's not bad.
Yeah, but at least they put that in. Dan, both that story and then in general, as you read the Washington Post, obviously a key part of the media firmament. Do you think they're being less anti-Trump now than they were?
I mean, I think it's less anti-Trump, but it's still on the whole anti-Trump. We were texting yesterday, all of us, about the poll of Republicans. Chris Cox was in there as a dark horse for 2028. We all just, chuckled at that as like, the never Trumpers are going to resume and retake the party here in the next 2.5 years. I think there are little signs. Even the New York Times at times will mention, why Democrats are struggling, or talk about kind of Trump's strengths in some areas. But as a rule, it's the headlines say it all.
Yeah.
So can I tell you, this is the interesting thing to me, Mark, is that if I were late 90s or early 2000s back in my old staff job on the Hill, and someone called from the Washington Post, it mattered because it was going to drive news the next day. It was going to be part of the cable news cycle of stories, et cetera, et cetera. On my side now, I don't think we care what the Washington Post. I mean, like, it's not irrelevant, but it's close. It's becoming more and more irrelevant in the ecosystem. It's not like Fox is going to pick it up, that story, or so. Like, you can literally realize that people that you care about in your base are not seeing that anymore. Whereas it used to be part of it, it would get into the bloodstream. So
Yeah.
the Washington Post and the New York Times in particular are becoming less and less relevant every day to their own making.
It's a
Well,
totally,
I think-
it's a totally important and sophisticated point, and I would say almost everyone I know in MAGA agrees with you, Sean, with one exception. the president.
Well,
Dan,
but I think the thing is, what's different now is both parties have a bloodstream and they're
Right.
separate.
Yeah.
So if you just, it's like two alternate universes at times on the same issue. So on our side, what the New York Times writes and the Washington Post gets on MSNBC, it feeds Blue Sky, like there's a whole ecosystem. On your side, you're right. It's totally Fox is not pulling clips from it, and then all the right wing talkers are not picking up off of it, etc., except to mock it.
To mock
So
it.
I think that's the
I agree with everything you're saying, with one exception. The Times, I think the Post less so. The Times still has the capacity to drive news if they've got a story that if it appeared someplace else, people would
If
care
it's
about.
investigative, generally.
yeah,
If it's
right.
a bombshell.
And as
Yeah.
does the Post, by
Yeah.
the way, if they have some.
I feel less. I feel it's
Okay.
less.
I
Maybe
just
I'm
don't know
wrong.
that they have investigative reporters at the Post anymore. The
Yeah.
Times still does, and they've
Yeah.
got people look at campaign finance and things like that.
Yeah. All right. The BBC thing is so interesting. The two top people at the BBC, including Deborah Turness, who used to run NBC, both resigned. What's confusing to me about this controversy, where they aired a documentary last year that put together Trump's comments from January 6th, in which they made it seem like he basically said, everybody go up there and storm the Capitol, by splicing together different parts. Here's the headline from the New York Times, and the American media is covering this obsessively. Why the BBC is facing its gravest crisis in decades. The British public service broadcaster apologized Monday for a misleadingly edited documentary about President Trump. But the scandal has already claimed two of its top executives. Here's what's confusing to me, Dan, about this. The thing they put together, these were not some obscure Trump comments. These are like super famous Trump comments that have been analyzed and investigated and written about for years now. The notion that they needed some outside investigator to say, was this misleading? I mean, of course it was misleading, but on the face of it. And of course, ridiculous that they did what they did. But I don't really understand why this is like some bombshell report that's a surprise to anybody. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I totally
if it's
agree
an
with you. I
outrage,
mean,
if it's an outrage now, why was it an outrage right when they did it?
Yeah, and I mean, first off, that day speaks for itself. I don't know why they had to try to edit it to make it look worse than it was. Like,
Yeah.
it's pretty obvious what happened.
Yeah.
The only thing I've read that maybe answers the question is that there were other stories in which they were increasingly being accused of selective editing, of not telling the whole truth, and so it could be that somehow this got resurfaced. Trump has been suing people in the last, in this year over stuff. I'm curious and why they took their reaction to this. The U.S. president, I would think digging in against him would be good for them.
Sean, the president's threatening to sue them, and he's asking for an apology and all this stuff. They've already taken the documentary in question off the website. But do you think the British? I mean, again, the BBC is quasi-governmental. You think this is another case of they don't want to be on Trump's bad side, and that's why this is happening?
Well, first, I mean, the Telegraph, which kind of has pushed this, did a great job of really analyzing the timeline and making it a big deal. And so there's a lot of fuel to this fire that's coming from other media sources looking to attack the BBC. I mean, that's part of this. And I think Deborah Turness's sort of pretending that this isn't a scandal is sort of literally unbelievable. The way that they're like, we did nothing wrong, and it's not up for debate. I mean, I find that whole fascinating. The other thing that I find fascinating is the BBC, in my experience, generally loves to very clearly compartmentalize their different news divisions. So they'll say, oh, that's the documentary team. They have nothing to do with news. And then and so the idea that the entire brand is coming down with this, to me, is a huge failure on their PR team's fault, because they are always good when people interact with them. Well, there's a lot of folks in the White House and during the campaign that banned the BBC because of their biased coverage. And I think the BBC has always been tried to be very clear about how to bifurcate the different sections. Oh, this isn't, we're not dealing with this anymore. This is a huge brand issue. And I wouldn't be surprised if Starmer, the prime minister, gets involved in this for exactly the point that you raised, in the same way that Mark Carney in Canada was getting involved when Mayor Ford made the Ontario commercial.
Yeah. So a couple things our colleagues have shared. First of all, the documentary wasn't produced in-house, but they did air it. And then some of the controversy over bias has to do with the executives not owning up on things like some trans coverage, some coverage of Israel. But it's still of a piece with the notion that Donald Trump is leading, just as he's led on immigration, had an impact around the world, particularly in Europe, leading on this question of pushing back against liberal media bias. Okay, before we leave the topic of the BBC, Dan, what's your number one desert island disc?
Desert Island Disc? What does that mean?
Oh my goodness. Sean, do you know what I'm talking about? So there's some famous radio show. I'm embarrassed. I don't know the full details. There's a show on BBC Radio where they ask celebrities, like, what if you were on a desert island and you could only bring one album, what would it be? What would it be?
Okay.
So what's your number one desert island disc, Dan?
Ooh, I'm a huge Beatles fan.
Yeah. So Sergeant Pepper, the White
yeah,
Album.
sure. Yep.
Take the White Album because then you get two albums.
Good call.
Yeah. Okay. Sean.
Should be a no-brainer. Christopher Cross's Flamingo album, 1970.
Over greatest hits.
Yeah, because this is the OG. This has got Ride Like the Wind, Sailing. I mean, you're getting everything.
Yeah.
Mark, are you Tay-Tay? Is that?
No. Sinatra's greatest hits would be mine.
That's a good one.
Just because that'll last forever. All right. Quick word from a sponsor, then to your questions. Another opportunity to buy stuff for yourself, but also holiday gifts from the good folks at Poncho. This fall's Poncho's got you covered with classics like denim and flannels, also new styles like the Western Polo and the Tough Thread. Their clothes are comfortable, durable, and versatile to whatever the season brings. Go to ponchooutdoors.com/2WMM. Again, ponchooutdoors.com/2WMM. That stands for two-way morning meeting. And buy to your heart's desire, 10% off your first order, free shipping on denim jeans, flannels, Western polos. The Poncho promise is both simple and spectacular. Free shipping, free returns, free exchanges if you don't like the size you got. Poncho stands by every shirt. They'll make it right if you get something and you don't think it is your favorite. Again, go to ponchooutdoors.com/2WMM. Enter your email. You get $10 off your first order, and shipping is free. And then when that little pop-up comes up and they say, oh, how did you learn about Poncho Outdoors? And say a two-way morning meeting sent you. It helps us like crazy. So please do that. Thank you for your attention to this matter. All right, everybody, time for your questions.
By the way, Mark, Chad, apparently it's a newsflash that we're old because our music tastes are horrifying to a significant number of people.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, we are old.
Like
we're
horrifying.
but like Taylor Swift likes Frank Sinatra, so
The white hair and receding hairline didn't give me away with my age. I'm shocked.
Michael Flanagan, welcome in.
All right, I got to start with Dire Straits making movies.
Good choice. Also a good choice. It wouldn't be in my top 10, but it's a good choice. Thank you for sharing that. What's your mind, Mr. Flanagan? Remind people where you live and share.
I'm in Randolph, New Jersey, which is northwest.
Yeah.
And for Sean, I've been a Patriots season ticket holder for 17 years from here.
How many home games have you?
Drive all the way out to
how many home games
Foxborough?
have you been to? How many home games have you been to this year?
I've been to one. My son's in Boston. He's been all the other ones. When the kids were little, I'd drive up and back so I could make work on Monday.
Yeah. Are the Crafts good owners?
The Crafts always send you a great gift.
Yeah.
This year we got a varsity jacket, Patriot varsity jacket, which was outstanding.
You got that handy? I'd like to see it. Is it nearby?
I think I might have it in the closet over here.
All right. Take a walk. While you're walking, tell us what's on your mind.
So Mark, a request for you guys in two-way. The healthcare decision looks really tough, to solve. And I really think we need two-way to do some type of roundtable to get to the issues.
On policy, you mean?
On policy, on anything, I think the only thing Congress is going to do is just around the edges, and it's not going to solve anything.
Yeah.
If you look at healthcare, unless it's direct to consumer, it doesn't work. The only two procedures that have actually gone down in price or stayed below the rate of inflation is plastic surgery and LASIK eye surgery.
Yeah. Are you in the industry, or are you just a well-informed consumer?
I'm a well-informed consumer.
Okay.
I'm the guy that's been to the doctor twice in the last 5 years, but pay $2,200 a month in premiums.
Yeah.
And then have a $5,000 deductible.
First of all, Michael, are you not getting checkups?
No, I get my blood work taken myself through LabCorp like 4 times a year. If my numbers come back, like out of the scale, I talk to my doctor and I go and I see my doctor.
All right. I'm not sure I can endorse that, but do you want to ask a question or you want
I
to
think
just
there's a
talk,
broader point.
do you want to talk
Well,
about what you
I
raised?
think the broader point is, I think two-way needs to use the platform to bring in the people that have differing views.
I agree.
In order to, take the narrative beyond, can we subsidize Obamacare and all that fun stuff?
I agree. It's a big aspiration to do policy, including healthcare policy, and I appreciate your endorsement of our aspiration. As we grow as a company, we'll do more of it.
And I can't find the jacket. My wife hid it somewhere.
All right. When you come back and just hold it up when you can find it. Michael, thank you. Appreciate it.
How do they know what size to send you, Michael? Do they just guess?
I was wondering.
No, they ask you your size, Sean, for everything they send you.
Yeah.
I only say that because I'm still on the waiting list.
Yeah. Michael, thank you. Appreciate the recommendation. And again, I wasn't being flip. We really do want to do that.
Can I, one point about what Michael suggested, which I wholeheartedly endorse. I think that healthcare is like technology, which is you want these folks, not you don't want, the people that are supposed to address them in Congress. I have as much confidence in them being able to address AI and technology concerns as I do healthcare, which is not a lot.
Yeah.
I'll actually disagree with you a little bit of that, Sean. There are some serious experts, both on the member and staff level, who understand this well. The problem is the other 90% don't.
Right,
and the politics of this, when you get in, go back to the death panels, creating insurance pools to lower costs. How do you deal with drugs? How do you deal with, my father's last week of life was $500,000. He had terminal cancer. He had multiple strokes. We knew what the outcome was, but you keep trying to keep them alive and do all these things to get through. In a lot of worlds, you'd look at that and say, what are we doing? But as a family member, I was like, try everything you could, but it's a tough issue. It's brutal.
Yeah.
Yes. Ever since Sarah Palin popularized the phrase death panels, it's become hard to have a reasonable debate about the very high percentage of money we spend on healthcare for people in the last days of their lives. It's a very tough issue. Wayne, welcome in. Tell folks where you are, what your Desert Island disc would be, and what's on your mind.
Yeah, Wayne Knoll. I live in southern Indiana, a little town, Cynthiana, which is north of Evansville. I'm a pastor of a small church here. And I really like Sean's suggestion about Christopher Cross. That was a great album. I had that one. I was, 15 or something like that. Had a lot of good songs on it.
You and Sean can share then. You just bring the
I guess. I don't really listen to albums anymore. Yeah. I listen to a lot of Christian contemporary music, but albums, I just don't think of it that way.
Yeah.
Do you stream it on your phone or do you stream it on a computer? Or?
My phone. I've got hearing aids, and I've got it where I've actually connected to the hearing aids, so I can listen to it that way.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Wayne, what's on your mind? What's on your mind besides music?
By the way, Sean, I read your book over the summer, and I really enjoyed it. It was a good read. So
which one?
You mentioned that. The one.
There's 4.
Yeah. Okay. I guess it was the first one.
The briefing.
It was all about your life. It was very interesting hearing about your life.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to mention a couple of unintended consequences that I think of from the shutdown, and that's some light that's been shown on some things that maybe not everybody knew about. I consider myself to be fairly up on the news, but I didn't know that the ACA was being propped up with these subsidies.
Some of it is, yeah.
So I think about the debate back 15 years ago about the ACA and how that it was going to pay for itself and all this, and it was going to drive down costs. And none of that has ended up being true. So I think, we need to take a look at this.
Part of why it's not true is because at the time they passed it, and I was covering the White House at the time, they said, we have to have, I'll just use a shorthand here, death panels. We have to have this committee that meets every year, I think, to decide what things can cost. And if we don't have that, they said, if we don't have that, it won't work. Because some people tried to get it out. They said we have to have it. It's in the bill, but they never did it. So, even by their own account of how the thing was going to work, it was doomed to fail in terms of controlling costs.
Yeah. And you, I mean, I don't consider myself an Einstein, but I couldn't see how the thing could possibly work at the time. So the other thing I wanted to mention was the fact that it's shown that I think it's like 1 out of 8 households has SNAP, that the government is paying for their food.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't think most people realize that, and I'm
No,
not
sir.
against that. I mean, I'm not against. I have a daughter that is in a wheelchair, and she has spina bifida, and it's a great help to her. She can't work, that type of thing. But there's lots and lots of people that could be working. Just mention that. The other thing I just wanted to mention was President Trump's, and I'm a Trump supporter. I don't support every single thing he does. I voted for him 3 times, but the $2,000 rebate, or whatever they're calling it, that seems to me like that would be highly inflationary. I think when they gave the started handing out money during COVID, I think that was a terrible thing. Whether it was under Trump or under Obama, I mean under Biden, it ended up. I think it was one of the big drivers of inflation, and
Yeah.
nobody really talks about that much anymore.
Wayne, thank you for that. 2 great points. Sean, comments on Wayne's second point.
Yeah, I agree. Look, I think between the inflationary potential that would cause, it's bad. Two, I just think, we're $38 trillion in debt. We need to be honest with where we are as a country and what's happening. And I agree with you on the healthcare thing too. I think the previous person listed off LASIK. That's always to me sort of been as a guy who got LASIK. I mean, costs got driven down. I get that you can't have entire market forces on everything, but there is an element that's missing, and we as consumers don't have skin in the game, and that's the problem. Right, is that until you go into the office and have to have, and it could be $5 to 100, but it doesn't always have to be. If you don't feel like there's a cost associated with, there's some men that are like our previous guy who doesn't go for every 5 years, and then there's some people who go every 5 minutes. So there's a balance that I think is missing in healthcare in terms of a market force, and I'm not going to say I can solve it right now, but I think that that's the flip side from the entire takeover is how do you put some element in there.
Dan.
I think the thing about Obamacare is you got to go back to when they were doing it. They spent the first half of 2009 working with Republicans, trying to find a way to get a bipartisan deal. And then Chuck Grassley famously says, like, there's nothing you can give me. You can give me everything and I won't vote for it. So then they cut bait. They're trying to figure out, what this looks like. The politics change. Scott Brown wins. They know they're going to get drubbed. The feeling was, get this on the books. It's going to cover millions of people. It's got lots of problems, but we'll fix it with tens of millions of people insured. The ACA subsidies, this is a fact politically. Republican states, because it was popular, Tea Party era, don't accept Medicaid expansion, right? If you lose your primary. But P.S., we really want healthcare for our people. How can we backdoor this so it doesn't look like we accepted the Obamacare because we'd lose a primary and cover people? It's not illegal immigrants that are getting this. It's millions of people in red states that did not expand Medicaid. That's why the White House knows they got a problem. It's their people, quote unquote, you're pulling health insurance from. So that's why you have people like Tom Cotton, even Lindsey Graham, talking about how, well, we got to have some fixed, folks. So the problem with healthcare is it is such a complicated, messy, expensive issue dealing with life and death and health that if it were easy, it would have been done. But I think the Obama people did the right thing. Get it on the books. Millions of people have health insurance, even if it's expensive and messy, because of him. And he and Nancy Pelosi deserve, I think, a tremendous amount of credit.
Wayne, thank you. Grateful to you for coming on. Quick word from a sponsor. Take Lean. Food, fad diets.
Speaking of healthcare, yeah.
Fad diets, juice cleanses, cabbage soup diet.
Woo.
Can you imagine somebody doing a cabbage food
Happy
diet?
holidays.
I've done it when I had
Crazy.
to make weight as like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Cabbage soup, that'll get you going.
Average person, by the time they hit 60, they've lost and regained several hundred pounds, which does huge damage to you. It's called weight cycling. Horrible idea. And weight cycling happens if you try to lose weight without proper guidance. Most people need help to stop weight cycling and to lose weight. Here's a great way to do it. The non-prescription lean created by doctors. It's an oral supplement, not one of those GLP-1 injectables. And the science behind it allows you to maintain healthy blood sugar, control appetite and cravings, and help burn fat by converting it to energy. Right now, if you want to try their products and get 20% off, go to takelean.com. Use the promo code again, 2WMM, two-way morning meeting. Takelean.com, 20% off. Go to takelean.com. Again, the promo code is 2WMM. Thank you for the attention to this matter. And guys, I couldn't help but notice you're both wearing very handsome morning meeting gear from
I
our
love
friends
it.
at Fairway and Green. We had somebody on Two-Way Tonight last night, a young lady who came on and said she loves her golf stuff. She's a golfer, and she's ready to start sleeping in it because it's as comfortable as pajamas. And people have been coming on lately and saying, I don't mean to sound like everybody else, but yeah, it's so comfortable. Sean, are you what is that? Is that a vest? What do you got on
Yeah,
Yeah,
there?
it's a vest. Yeah, by the
Yeah.
way, you can probably tell I'm out on the West Coast, traveled out here. And when I flew out, I literally had the polo with the quarter zip and the vest. I was full Fairway and Green the whole flight.
Was the
Wow.
person sitting next to you on the flight touching your clothes?
I will tell you that the person behind me may have done a little touching.
Yeah.
It was a very interesting flight. I will say that in terms of who was on there.
Interesting.
Some
All
some
right.
very
Really?
interesting
We'll check
people in the
we'll check your
media.
Instagram.
Well, it was inappropriate to take photos.
Okay.
But I will just say this. Well,
All right. Anyway,
there's
if you want to dress like Dan and Sean, throw your Botany 500 stuff out in the trash and go to twoway.tv/fairway. The 25% sale still on, 25% discount.
take advantage of that.
Take
I was
advantage of
doing
it
Christmas
now.
shopping this morning. Yeah, when I first got up.
Election 25. You can get the stuff with our logos, our catchphrases. Catchphrases such as "No smack in the chat" or "Peace, love, and understanding" or "Conversations like no
Conversations
other,"
like no other.
all available to you. Or you can just get the unadorned regular merch, all extremely nice. Again, 25% off. And Thursday night, please save time with me at 7 Eastern time, right after Two-Way Tonight. We're going to have a special opportunity for members of the Two-Way community to shop till you drop
Ooh.
of Fairway and Green products. So 7 p.m. Thursday, please, Eastern, please.
Cyber Thursday? Is that
Save that. It's going to be a cyberish Thursday.
okay?
Chris, we have almost no time, but we haven't seen you in so long.
Uh-oh.
So
Oh, he missed
I
it.
yield-
Oh, here, canary in the
yield-
coal mine.
I
Are you
yield to the
We
happy
don't have
gen-
enough
about
time
last
I
for
yield-
week?
this.
I
Pissed
yield
about
to-
this week.
I
Or
yield
both?
to the gentleman of Georgia with the admonition and warning that I will mute you in 1 minute, whether you're done or not. So the floor is yours, Chris. Welcome back.
I want to commend Dan on his defense of Obama's efforts on healthcare.
Yes, sir.
I want to remind all of you that Dan Olivo told you months ago that the ICE raids were going to cost the Republicans, the Latinos, and look what happened. And then I want to challenge Sean's
I knew it.
assertion that somehow, I think I heard you basically saying that the fact that Tim Scott is elected in South Carolina aids the support for why we don't need black districts. Was that your point?
No, it is not my point. It is being brought up as one of the
Well,
reasons.
okay, good. It's a weak point because the Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act supported those black districts for reasons that blacks vote similarly and white majority votes defeat black preferences. Tim Scott only gets 8% of the black vote. So him being elected is totally irrelevant to whether black voters will be diluted by being spread across white districts where they'll be outvoted. So whoever's pushing that, give them my phone number, please. I got something.
Will do.
All right, Chris, stand by. Sean.
Again, Chris has got a good point, as he always does. To me, there's a case that's going against South Carolina in particular, Mr. Clyburn's district, as Mr. Clyburn said on Morning Joe, because it's a 47% black district. It is technically doesn't qualify as a majority minority district. The other thing that people in South Carolina are pointing to is that, part of the Tim Scott election statewide shows that you don't need the Voting Rights Act to do it. So my point broadly is that there's a lot of people in that case in South Carolina that are pointing to why the VRA is not applicable.
Yeah, Chris, I'll yield 15 more seconds if you want to share your desert island disc with us.
I just want to say to all the people in the chat who always say I only bring up race.
Yeah.
I talked about tariffs and Kamala and a bunch of other stuff, But the reason I have
Yeah.
to bring up race is because too many of some other folk want to pretend
Yeah.
it doesn't exist.
All right, then why don't you just say your favorite desert island disc would be Donnie and Marie? That'd screw everybody's up.
I don't use my time for peripheral points.
Okay. All right. Good to see you. Thank you for coming
Good to
on.
see you.
Appreciate it. All right, Sean, what do you have tonight?
Well, tonight, just on a personal level, I'm out here in LA. It's the 20th anniversary of Dancing with the Stars. So Donny Osmond, you just brought him up. He was one of the first contestants. Who knows? Maybe he'll be here tonight as well.
Is that
But then
is that a live show?
the show is live, as it is
Yeah.
every Monday,
Yeah.
8 p.m. Eastern.
Will you be a little nervous?
No, I've gotten over that. Plus, I got a hamstring that's pulled, so I don't know.
He's stretching now.
Yeah, but so it's interesting that we spent the whole time a lot of time talking about redistricting tonight. If people remember my Road to 270 show, we're going to go state by state, literally all the red states, all the blue states, every state, Utah, Virginia, with Adam Kincaid. He is the president of the National Republican Redistricting Trust, and just talk about what each party hopes to get out of each state and where we'll be at the end. So if you're a political, dork, geek, whatever, like want to see every single state, what is possible, this is what we're doing tonight.
All right. Later on, a new episode of Next Up drops amongst my guest, Megan Kelly, and my reported monologue on why both parties have a problem with anti-Semitism. Two-Way Tonight, taping early tonight, 5 Eastern, 2 spectacular guests. If you're a fan of Two-Way Tonight, you've seen them both. You know their work. Hogan Gidley and Steve Elmendorf will join me to talk about all the news of the day. And then it will stream at 6 o'clock normally on YouTube and on X. And then Michael Moynihan Report at 7 o'clock. So two ways to come. Again, note the special time for Two-Way Tonight, 5 Eastern. And thanks to all of you who wrote in, either asking about sponsorships or investment opportunities with Two-Way. Grateful to you. Again, please don't be alarmed or hurt if we don't get right back to you, particularly on the investment side, because the Series B is not till next year, but we're collecting everybody's names and contact, and we will be back in touch. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for being part of Two-Way. Went a little bit over, so apologies to the affiliates for that, and we'll see you all tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern time for the morning meeting. Have a great day.